You ready?
Oh, yeah. Are we ready?
Mhm.
All right, we will call to order the March 22nd Park Trails and Lakes Commission meeting. Jamie, do you want to do roll call?
Chair Steenblock,
Here.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Ramseth, Commissioner Steenblock,
Here.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
All right, then we are looking for an approval for the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. And then open forum, I see. No, nothing? Okay. All right, well then we will move on to the regular agenda, 5A, approval of the meeting minutes for February 15th.
Chair and Parks, Trails and Lakes Commissioners, seeking approval for our workshop minutes, February 15th, 2022.
I believe I was there. I move approval.
Correct.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then I'm an abstain. All right, we're moving right along. The next on the agenda is 5B, which is the Goodview Preserve Concept Plan.
All right, Chair and members of the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, I'm happy to introduce a representative from Bolton and Mink, Nathan First. He has been serving as our interim zoning administrator for the city of Forest Lake, and he is going to walk through agenda item B, the Goodview Preserve Concept Plan. So with that, I'll turn over to Nathan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, and good evening, everyone. For those who have not had an opportunity to meet me, as Jamie said, I've been in the capacity of an interim zoning administrator here at the city. I do work with Bolton and Mink and have been providing some office hours for folks who need planning services or have questions and things like that in the community. So that's kind of what I've been doing here, in addition to some of the development reviews that you see a couple of developments in front of you this evening. So the first one is Goodview Preserve, and this is a concept plan. But before I get into the details on the concept plan, I'd like to just kind of broadly talk about the map that you see in front of you. This is from the city's adopted comprehensive plan. It is from the Parks chapter, and specifically it identifies the location of park facilities in the city and also the location of future park facilities. And so I'm going to zoom in here on the kind of the subject area of tonight's plans, and it gets a little grainy, but you can see a red circle here, sort of in the center of the screen where the cursor is. That is the location of a future neighborhood park. So the comprehensive plan has identified this specific location to serve existing and future members of the community as a neighborhood park. Just really briefly, a neighborhood park, I provided the definition in the staff report for you, but essentially it's to serve sort of, you know, as you're probably well familiar, as kind of a place for people to go and gather from the neighborhood surrounding the park, not necessarily a regional destination, but perhaps a neighborhood destination. So that's sort of the purpose of the search area and these red circles. So I'm going to now present to you a little bit more information on this first item, Goodview Preserve. So Goodview Preserve is I think everyone is familiar with the general location in the city. I'm getting nods. So this specific development is looking to propose a mix of different residential units. So there are single family, more or less traditional lots, and there are some attached townhomes that are proposed in this development. There's a mix of different lot widths proposed within those single family lots. In total, we're looking at about 81 residential unit subdivision between that unit mix. So this total area of this development is 38.4 acres. However, as you can see here on the screen, there is a rather large wetland area which sort of sits in the center of the parcel. This presents kind of a challenge to the developer in terms of how to design the site. And they met with the TEP panel, which is a sort of, it's a panel that consists of the watershed, Army Corps of Engineers, Minnesota DNR, some of those regulatory bodies that look at preservation of these open wetland areas. And this is the design that they have landed on after guidance from that panel. So this is informed by some of those bodies that would review the ultimate project. So what you see here, in addition to these residential units, in the center of the development is that open area that would preserve wetland. There would be some stormwater ponds sort of integrated into that area to allow for stormwater management in this area for the subdivision. And then sort of the focus of tonight's meeting is the park that's proposed in the southeast corner of this development. So the development is about 38 acres, but there are an estimated 7 acres of wetland, which leaves a net acreage of 31.4 acres. So the city's subdivision ordinance has a parkland dedication requirement for 10% of the land, and that would be the net land. So you're looking at a requirement in this area, or for this project, of 3.14 acres. So that would be the required land, and what you can see here, I'm going to zoom in, is this proposed park, which is encircled in green. The park is 3.4 acres in size, so that actually exceeds the required amount of parkland dedication. And then a really quick note for you on the location of the park within this subdivision. Staff have guided the applicants towards this location with that future, or that comprehensive plan map, because the goal here is to create a kind of a contiguous park for these future residents in this area. So by locating the park in this corner of the development, it will be contiguous with the park that will actually be expected in that development to the south, which is Birchwood Estates. And that's an advisory item for you on the agenda tonight as well, just to, as long as we're talking about this area. So that's what is being proposed with this subdivision. What we're looking for is specifically, oh, and sorry, before I go there, I want to just mention one more thing too. We are also seeing on this concept plan the location of sidewalks and trails in the subdivision, and these are reviewed for their connectivity to surrounding neighborhoods. In addition to the trail, which you see in green here, this dashed line, this would run east-west and provide additional connectivity from the park to surrounding neighborhoods and vice versa. So ultimately, this trail could be part of a larger trail system in this area. And again, this would be consistent with the development coming into the south in Birchwood Estates. It would connect to that trail, and it would be part of an overall network. So that's what I have for you. What we're looking for is some feedback from the commission this evening on the proposed park. And if there are any questions from me, I'm happy to take those. And I would also note that a representative of the developer is here this evening and can help answer questions you might have on the development. So that's all I have formally prepared. I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioner Moorhead.
I just have a small one, and I think I know the answer. The wetlands are clearly identified, except for that little spot. It doesn't say wetland, but is that also part of the wetland? Kind of right in the center to the bottom.
Yeah, I would assume that they just didn't have space to include the verbiage in that small area, but it looks like it is expected to be a wetland. I'm not sure if they've had their wetlands delineated, which is a formal report on whether what types of wetlands they might be and what the exact boundaries are, but I would maybe defer to the developer on that piece.
It'd be a creative park to go around all that. That's just my comment.
Actually, I'm on the same page. I mean, it seems like when we're getting new residential spots in here, it seems like the parks are always at a wetland.
Or next to them. They still have
Or
enough.
next to them.
They still have enough acreage. I can see that. It's
Yeah.
just the way it's configured that it's
Yeah.
a little. And am I right in saying that most of the development is over here? And they're going to walk over there? So it's quite a ways from, But I understand, we did talk about the availability of the south end sharing it, and that makes sense. It's just, when you look at it, it's like, sure.
If I might comment on the nature of the park being contiguous with the other park, one of the comments that I've received from park staff is, when we have these separate smaller parks, it gets to become a maintenance challenge. And in those opportunities we have to consolidate parkland and create more programmable space are things that we're looking for these future parks. Just a comment that I've heard and we kind of reviewed for.
And I'll just comment as well. I think as staff was reviewing the concept plan, I think the connectivity, the sidewalks and trails as part of this plan is a key element to the connectivity and making sure that even if people are on the other side of the development, they have a safe way to access the park. And it almost encourages that walkable distance, which is what we want to strive for with all our park systems. So the trails and sidewalks, I think, does provide everybody access to that park. It might be a little further, but again, that might encourage people to walk, bike, et cetera, instead of just driving over to the park. I think it still is a reasonable distance to travel in those means. So, and then lastly, to the point of the parkland itself, it does serve as a unique opportunity. We are looking for diverse programming. We don't really have any significant, many parks that have that wooded area. Some of those wetlands can provide a nice scenic environment at the park too, so you can incorporate some trails that way. So it does provide a unique park that we don't have in the community.
As long as they're safe. 'Cause
Correct.
You're gonna have children there, yeah.
Yep. And I guess one last comment in the staff recommendation. Tonight's the feedback, but we would then at a future meeting start talking about programming and what that amenities at the park would be. So that'd be a future agenda item.
So I'm sorry, there is a fair amount of trees on that then?
Yeah, as far as I know, the park area looks to be fairly forested. Now, I don't know what the nature of that forest is. Does it consist of tree species that we consider to be like nuisance, or is it significant trees that are, of value? I don't know that we could answer that question at this time.
The developer be able to answer that?
Perhaps.
I mean, this is where we asked for it to be, so.
Right, we have to kind of work around it.
When we talked about it and adding on
Yeah,
with
on
the
that other
next
side,
development
yep,
down
yep.
below.
When you
Yep.
see it and you
Yep,
see
you're right.
how it's configured.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Ashley
Hi, welcome.
D'Alessandro from Center Homes. I would be happy to answer. We have had a tree inventory completed. We have not yet seen those results yet, so I can't speak as to what the caliber and the quality of the trees are in that location. I do know that throughout the development, there are some very nice sized trees and good quality trees among some of the other trees that would be considered less valuable. So I would assume that there would be, but as soon as we get that report, I can make sure that I provide it to Nate and also provide it to the parks.
Thank you.
Be happy to do that. And that area that you're referring to is wetland. I'm not sure what type of wetland that is offhand, and we can also get that answer for you as well.
That would help, thank you.
Perfect.
So what are we looking at as far as a footprint? Because as Jamie mentioned, we're gonna have to think about what we want to put here. As we look at the footprint, how much is available around this wetland or within this wetland?
Yeah, to try and help answer that question. So the park, this gross acreage of this park is measured here as 4.4 acres. Now, the parkland dedication ordinance does not allow for any wetland or kind of lower quality land to qualify as the parkland. So with that wetland taken out, you're looking at about 3.4 acres, which again still does exceed that 3.14 requirement. So the total, I guess, upland park area would be 3.4 acres.
But 3.4 spread across on the other sides of the wetland and around the wetland as well. So if we look in that area, the middle area where you've got the wetland to the left and to the right, do we know what acreage is there? So if we were thinking about putting playground equipment there, do we know what our footprint is between those wetlands? Because that would help us try to figure out what actually would go there. And if we don't know, could we get an answer to that?
And again, I think we asked before what the future is. Does anyone have a timetable for when the other southern area is going to be developed? Again, that would determine what we're going to put where, because if we're going to share it,
Yes, and I'll just jump in really quick. That is, the development to the south is our next agenda item that Nathan will go through. But then also some of this is some of that programming and what the amenities are going to be at the park. So we will have an opportunity to assess that once we can get a little more information on, the terrain and what land is available, and that timeline together to develop a plan on what we can implement and where we would put that. So, as the southern portion develops out, maybe that area is more suitable for a play area, and then we keep the wooded portion for some other park amenities that are different than what we currently offer.
Actually, one more question. On the wetlands, is the stormwater runoff going to go into that? Do you know?
In the park area perhaps, but outside of the park, it would not be directed towards that wetland. It would be directed
It's not
towards
gon- okay, it's not-
stormwater ponds that are provided, yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
just so it doesn't grow.
what do we need tonight?
So we need a motion one way or another on this one.
I think per our former conversation, we don't want to have everyone start over again. I think we're going to have to be creative. And I wish I had printed out the agenda. I probably have a better motion, but to approve the concept plan, is that what we'd be doing tonight? And to have further discussion as to what we would have on there.
Yeah, the guidance is what they're looking for, so that would be acceptable, yes.
Okay.
Except the concept plan is provided.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
And we put 5B together with this. Second step with the Goodview Preserve concept plan, or sorry, the Birchwood Estates.
Yeah, so let me go here. So this is actually a preliminary plat that the city has reviewed. I think this commission is going to be familiar with this one because it has reviewed and provided feedback in the past on the location of a park for this subdivision. I'm going to provide some general details on this one as I did the other one. So this is another almost 40-acre subdivision here. Let me find the acreage for you. 39.96 gross acres I have on my report here. And then using the net developable acreage on this one, you're looking at a net developable area of 34.42 acres, which would then net parkland dedication requirement of 3.4 approximately acres. So this one is a little bit different from Goodview Preserve in the sense that the proposal here is to provide a park in the northeast corner of the development paired with a cash in lieu payment that would be calculated at the time of a final plat. Like Goodview Preserve, this park would be part of that contiguous park, in addition to having connectivity to trails system. So what you see in the concept plan in front of you here is in this subdivision, this would be a 1.4 acre piece of the park connected to sidewalks on what's shown here as Street A, but would be a continuation of Greystone Avenue. And then here, I think this is called Street B here. You've got sidewalks on both of those streets. On all streets, you have a sidewalk on at least one side of the street except for that cul-de-sac. And then you have a trail provided that runs sort of north and south on the west side of this development and provides connectivity from this park around through this sort of, you would call it unique wetland area in the development, down, south, and then connecting into what will ultimately be a regional trail which runs east-west along County Road 50. So again, providing some connectivity to the regional trail system through the development here. So that's kind of what the proposal is in front of us. The Planning Commission, so let me back up and say that the developer incorporated feedback that was received from this commission into their submittal, which was reviewed by the Planning Commission and the City Council and approved. So the preliminary plat and preliminary PUD have been approved. So this item is on the agenda this evening as an advisory item for the Parks Commission to show you kind of what this looks like in the future. So that's all I have formally prepared. The developer is here this evening. If you have any questions for him, otherwise I'm happy to take any questions you have for me.
Questions?
Mm. No.
We're good at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did you want to do a motion to, do you need a motion?
Yeah, can you come up to the?
Good evening. I'm John Anderson, the developer of Birchwood Estates. I represent Eternity Homes. One point I wanted to make is you were talking about the park and the Goodview Acres development. We're adjacent to that. So when you look at that area being wooded with wetlands, most of our parkland is open in a field right now. So there's more usable space there where you could potentially put a playground, and that would be contiguous to that park. If you take the acreage of both their park and our park, we're at almost 6 acres of land. This park will also expand to the east. There's 2 properties directly east of these 2 properties where they can take additional parkland further east as those properties develop in the future. Maybe you end up with a 10 or 12 acre park there. So when you talk about having some wetlands, you're going to have a lot of land eventually to be able to develop. Some of it's going to be wooded, some of it's going to be open. There'll be a mixture of stuff there. So long term, if you look at the overall site and area, there will be additional land coming in other than just these 2 properties. The one question I did have was regarding the sidewalk on that north-south road, which is, Greystone or whatever. Nathan and I had an email today about, we had a comment originally, we had the sidewalk on the west side. And in our recent plan submittal, we flipped that to the east side. But I just want to make sure we're clear on what's actually being asked there. I guess we thought it just had to be flipped to the other side.
Yeah, so I went back and reviewed the engineering memo that was in the packet at the City Council and the Planning Commission, and in the red lines on the engineering comments did indicate a sidewalk on both sides. So there was previously shown a sidewalk on this this western side of the street. The comment was to add a sidewalk onto the stretch here, and the sidewalk that would be added onto, which is shown on this map, on this stretch of Greystone, we'll call it, would provide connectivity. So there would be a trail crossing across, we'll call it Greystone, and then this sidewalk would provide connectivity down through this part, through the side of the park, and then east-west along 205th.
And so when you say you want sidewalk on both, can't we just flip it to the east sides? Why do we need sidewalk on the west side there as well? I guess that'd be the question.
Yeah, I think
Seems
we
like
need
we're
to
doubling that
clarify
up.
with Public Works and the engineers before I can really comment any further on that. That's just the requirement that I found after a brief review of the memo, so.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make, that was the only point I had. I guess I was still kind of questioning, I guess. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So to wrap up this, maybe motion in support of the parkland as provided would be appropriate.
I'll make a motion to align with the staff recommendation as it pertains to Birchwood Estates.
Second.
I forgot, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I do think this is an opportunity for us to look creatively at how we utilize this land instead of looking at it as we traditionally plop a park there. This is going to give us an opportunity. So we'll be
Good, he's got
looking
it.
for
He's
more
got it.
details.
He's got a design for us, that's good.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think what the developer was saying about the future possibility of future parkland contiguous to the parkland you've reviewed is definitely a good future opportunity that the commission should consider, and a unique wooded park, as Jamie said.
Perfect.
There's not any development started on the east side, is there?
There are no developments currently under review for the parcels that are east of these.
Well, that's the other problem, is how long do we wait before we make decisions on what we're doing? Because we can't hold people back because something might come later. Be
Yeah,
creative.
it's an opportunity to be creative and look at the area we have and be creative in how we use it. We might not, we don't need to use it as we traditionally do, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All right, so we're moving on to 5D, Forest Lake YMCA Park Play Days.
All right, so item 5D is the Forest Lake YMCA Park Play Days. I'll pull this up on the computer here for you guys as well. All right, so provided in the packet, we have had a longstanding partnership with the Forest Lake YMCA. They've been utilizing Belts Park over the past several years for their summer park play days. They run 2 different sessions throughout the summer, and it provides a great opportunity for residents in the community to engage in summer activities with the YMCA. As part of that, we have provided some financial support, and last year we provided $2,500, and the Forest Lake YMCA is seeking our support again this year in the same amount of $2,500 for their Belts Park Play Days for 2022. So with that, I'm looking for support and a motion to approve the $2,500 of our Parks Program budget for the YMCA Park Play Days this year.
Question.
Sure.
I'm not sure how to word this. Any chance Belts will be under construction during part of this time?
Good
This,
question.
Not during this year. Their program runs just in the summer, June, July, and I believe into a little bit of August. So we won't have that be an impact this year, unfortunately. Or fortunately for the YMCA's purpose, so.
Unfortunately for
It's always
everybody.
busy. I mean, we live right by there. There are lots of kids that participate in the program.
And here are the session dates that, session 1 is June 13th through July 14th, and then session 2 is July 18th through August 18th. So it's Monday through Thursday. Really a great opportunity for recreation programming in the community.
Just out of curiosity, why Belts when they're right by Fenway and there's the small playground area and picnic area there?
I believe they like the the playground and the little picnic shelter. There's a lot of the green open space. It's just worked really well for their program. I think location-wise, it's pretty central to, accessible within the community. So we have talked about other locations. So it's just worked really well for them, and they've continued to pursue Belts Park for this program.
And I think the kids actually get dropped off and picked up there.
They do,
So they
okay.
don't bus them over.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the $2,500 towards the program with the Y.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
It's with sadness now that I was reminded that we would like to see some construction there, and we can't mention that often enough. I'm glad Bolton Mink's here to hear this because we're ready to go.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And we're moving to 5E, which is Arts in the Park, music entertainer contract.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, at our February 15th workshop, we discussed a new contract, or the option of a new contract with Mr. Woody McBride to solicit the musical entertainment acts for our concert series and a sound and production for the day of every Tuesday at Arts in the Park. Feedback from the workshop was to move forward with a new contract and look at a slight increase in compensation. It was discussed amongst the commission that it'd be nice to offer a slight increase on the front side of things, so with the initial payment and some of the weekly payments that we make to him for the sound and production. And it was also discussed to add a discretionary bonus option for the end of season as to be determined by the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. We did put that in there up to $500 and to be determined in September. So those changes I've outlined in the contract. I do have the final contract included in the packet tonight. And based on the workshop, this is here for any final approval tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
So I have one question. On page 4, we have the discretionary bonus, but we don't have any criteria or guiding principles as it relates to how and if and when that should be issued. And I'm just wondering if, not for the contract, but could we have the program and events group look at establishing some guiding principles on what we would consider if we had funds available and were to issue this bonus? Because I feel like otherwise we're gonna come to the end of the season and it's gonna be a feeling. I feel like he did good, or I feel like he didn't. And at least that way we would have, like I said, some guiding principles that we would be able to set up front before Arts in the Park, and then be able to look at postseason if there's funds available to issue that bonus.
I agree.
That might help him as well to know what he's
Some
working towards. I
success.
don't know right now because I think he does a fabulous job. I wouldn't know what to make one of the criteria.
Yeah, that's why I don't think we have to work it into the contract,
No, I'd
but
just be
I
thinking
think
of
we should, if we could, between now and when Arts in the Park starts, if we could have the program and events group just get together and think about what would some criteria be, because then we could give it to him as well. I mean, we want him to understand or set him up for success. And then, like I said, we don't get to the end of the season when we're thinking about, when all of us haven't been at every event and trying to figure out, does he get it? Does he get it? Is it just because we feel like he did a good job, or does he get it because we had these guiding principles that we wanted to have achieved as part of this event, and that's why we're awarding it? I think it merits some conversation, but we're not.
Yeah, if you don't do that, then you might as well just add $500 onto the,
Yep, exactly.
to the, total.
Looking for a motion to approve the contract? So moved?
Second.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Let's see how friendly.
I'm always just kidding. So can I make a friendly amendment that we approve the contract with the caveat that the program and events group establishes some guiding principles?
No problem.
Okay.
That's fine.
Are you okay with second?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I want to really thank Jamie for following through on that, because he must have been very elated to think that he was noticed and appreciated, and that we went to him instead of him having to come and ask. I think that just really meant a lot to me, and I'm looking forward to the season.
Thank you. And he was very appreciative.
But
She's already got her digs on.
I already see
we're going to
that.
make it even better.
Yeah.
Kind of get me excited for it.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We are on to 6A, the Belts Park Playground Equipment discussion.
All right.
Just
so
a
I'm
side note, I told my 10-year-old granddaughter that we were looking at, starting to do some changes up there. She said, well, ask someone who uses that park.
Right.
Would you like some suggestions?
Oh, cute.
I thought that was
We'll take all
so
of
I'll
them we
keep
can
in
get.
mind, yeah.
All right, so we're transitioning over here to a discussion items. So this is like more of a workshop format, no formal action required. So this is reviewing Belts Park playground equipment. So I'll talk a little bit about this later on in the agenda, but we are working on a grant application, as you're aware, for the Minnesota DNR Outdoor Recreation Program. And part of that, we need to submit some concept plans of what we're gonna incorporate for the playground equipment. So we've reached out and have some proposals. We're not gonna talk about budget and what with this tonight. It's really a high level look at what has been submitted. These do come from well-known companies that do several playground builds. They are providing some of their, best features, favorite features from, people that really enjoy them. So just looking for some feedback tonight on if something catches your eye or if there's certain inclusive features. This will just help us to take that last and final step of narrowing down what kind of design we will have. So if there's things that you like, it's very high level tonight to provide some feedback on if we're in the right direction. So we'll start with concept one. I'm just going to kind of run through these, and if there's something that we can pause and talk through some of these, but just trying to gauge some interest of what looks intriguing to you. So this is our first concept. All of these, I will say, do include a 2 to 5 section and a 5 to 12 section. So this is just kind of the big picture here. You'll obviously notice that the left portion is for 5 to 12-year-olds, and then there's a 2 to 5 section over here. So I'll kind of go through a couple more pictures from this group here. So want to highlight a couple things. This design here has, and most companies have some form of feature similar to this where you can have wheelchair accessibility. So you can wheel onto this structure and it moves. So that's really a pretty inclusive feature. Most of the designs, I think a key thing, people like swings. So incorporating swings with some form of ADA swing. There's a variety of options there. Kind of go to the next one here. This is a spinning net climber. So it spins and you can climb the net.
Wow, it looks too small.
Huh?
That looks very small.
I've seen it in person and it is a lot bigger than what's pictured, so it's pretty cool. So this one's the 2 to 5 piece is a little closer up. So again, everything here, I think most of these items, they're all ground level accessible, so people in a wheelchair, individuals in a wheelchair can access the different components on the play features. And let's see over here. So there's some sensory panels, so there are things, that provide sensory components to the play design. Here's another look at the 5 to 12. Here you'll see some musical components that have been added. Again, accessible via wheelchair as well. This design does include some ramps, which then, are also obviously wheelchair accessible as well. There are some panels that you can interact with on the sides over here as well. Talking a little bit more about the 5 to 12. One of the things with the footprint that Bolton and Mink has put together for where we're going to construct this, it's not a significant surface area, so trying to go a little more vertical with some of the design will help us to kind of keep our costs down on the poured-in-place surfacing. The bigger container space we have, the more we're going to spend on the surfacing. So I think some of the companies have kind of elevated some of the play, which, thinking of our park system, this is unique and different to what we've seen in our park system. Here's a couple more views of the equipment there, so.
I have a question. So
Sure.
you wanted to go over these today so you can submit for the grant.
Yes.
If the grant is approved, how much leeway then do you have to come back and make modifications?
That's a good question. So if the grant is approved, we can make some modifications. There's flexibility there, as long as it doesn't impact the number of accessible features or we aren't deviating much from the accessibility component. So let's say we want swings and we're gonna submit a concept with one ADA compliant swing. That can vary, but we would want to make sure we have an ADA compliant swing. So there is a little flexibility, but we would want to make sure that we're still hitting on all the accessibility components. Okay. The DNR grant is primarily, our grant will be for access within the park and accessibility features. So obviously the playground components are a big portion of that. The grant also will tie in paved trails to all of our park amenities. So we're adding that access into and throughout the park with paved trails. So
Who's working on the grant?
Bolton and Mink is working on the grant, and I've been working with them on that. We did submit, and again, this is later, but we did submit a draft grant application March 10th, just for some preliminary feedback on where we were at and what, we had a few questions that received clarification. So the final grant is due March 31st.
They've got a pretty good record, so cross our fingers and hope.
Yes. So,
Can I make one
Sure.
ask? Is there a way that we can modify those sunshades to more of a solid roof? Because I think when we're like up at Lakeside, they're pretty expensive to replace. So if we had more of a solid surface on that, I think that would be, it would be
Yeah, that's not a-
cheaper in the long run.
yes, I remember that, your comment previously on the shades at Lakeside Memorial Park, but we can look into some other options with
Okay.
that.
And I think we asked this a different time and I just don't remember. Is there any of the existing equipment that is still usable enough to save and reuse? I'm thinking of the climbing spider web thing.
Yeah, the conversation we've had on that would be assessing that to repurpose at a different park location. So it wouldn't be as part of
Fine.
this, but we would have to assess that. We do have some options, whether it's declaring it surplus equipment and listing it for sale. We could assess it and see if we have another need in the community at a different park location. So we do have some options there that we would want to figure out what we want to do with that, so.
Some of it certainly has seen its
Right.
better days,
It's not
but
gonna go
there's
to
a few
waste.
pieces
Right.
that I think are.
And that's what we did with Lakeside Memorial Park. We declared it surplus and sold it,
Sold it.
so.
Cool, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we will make sure that we come to a good solution for that. So I'm going to jump to the second concept. And again, these are what we've received so far, and we can kind of figure out the features that we like. If we like, ground level, I'll kind of go to this next one here too. So again, this is the 2 to 5 equipment over here, and then the 5 to 12. So I think everyone's, I think swings are an important feature. So having some form of swings, and again, this one right here would be the ADA compliant. You can transfer onto that swing. Again, kind of more of an elevated design here. Some ramp systems, which, obviously accessible. I think there's a couple more of this one. So it's just another view of it. This I'm going to call your attention to right here. This is essentially a ground level merry-go-round, so you can wheel onto that, and then
Cute.
there's also a little bench typically on that. And then again, it's hard to see in these designs, but there are many ground level access points that would be accessible via wheelchair. So just again, to give you some different things to look at. This kind of calls out more specifically, all the details of what kind of benefit. There's social, emotional, there's cognitive, creative, physical. So really all these designs touch on many different components of play. So I wanted to share that so you guys kind of get a picture to see.
My comment so far would be, I'm very claustrophobic, and the first one just drives me nuts. It's so close together that, it's good to look at without kids, but you put a lot of kids in there and you got a lot of commotion going on in a very small area. This one is more spaced out, but I like some of the amenities from the other one, so that's what we
Yeah,
can do.
that's good feedback to know of, to guide how many play features you have. You can definitely build a park with many play features. We can always scale back. So it was kind of good to show a variety of options, and that'll help guide the next steps. This one's a different company, but similar to the first one. Again, these are pretty common right now as the industry, over the last few years, inclusivity in playgrounds has really become really important more than ever. So all the playground companies continue to develop and design new products. So this is one that's been pretty popular with the wheelchair accessibility. You can skip we're not going to look at the 13 plus right now for conversation, but again, some of the larger towers, again, is unique and different with some of the bigger slides. I think our only other bigger slide is at Summerfield Park, and it's not quite this big. So I'll kind of flip to a couple more views here so you can see a little better.
Right out again.
This here in the swings, this is an expression swing, so it's a tot seat with a adult seat as well, so you swing
cute.
together. That's a fun feature. And let's see, again, all of these have several transfer points, ground level access points as well, and all port in place surfacing, so wheelchair accessible throughout the playground. This is like an aerial view of how that layout would be.
So on this one that you're showing, Jamie, on the slides, you've got the colored slides, the purple slides or whatever, the tubes. Is there some kind of a warranty on fading where, because that would probably, the sun's gonna fade it regardless, so you don't want it to look bad in a couple years.
Yes, all of the playgrounds would come with a warranty. Everyone would be a little different
Everything
depending
would
on the final selection and the details of how many years and all of that. I could get that information for you, but they would have some warranty. And I think they've come a long ways in their playground designs and manufacturing of them that they're pretty durable. I don't know how long it would take until, any fading would show, but again, I can get some more information. Okay, so a couple more quick pictures, different features here, little climbing wall. A couple more pictures. I think that's it for that one. And then concept 4, gonna get some additional detail on this one, but it's laid out a little different, so I can kind of walk through this. So basically this view right here is the 5 to 12 structure. So you can see a couple different angles of that. And then this Comet, the single post swing, which would have an ADA swing. And this is also ADA compliant right here. And then again, another spin net. These would all be freestanding items that would be within this container space. So you would have the one main unit for 5 to 12 with those freestanding items as well.
Would be combined, the 512 and the.
This is for ages, the big main structure that you see with the plan view there, that's for
Right.
ages 5 to 12. And then all of those other components, the Comet, single post swing, et cetera, those would also be in that same general area,
So they'd be
spread out a little
combined.
bit.
Yeah, but
They're
the
called
younger and the older
freestanding.
would be combined, okay.
Freestanding items spread out enough so that they're within the appropriate use zone for safety compliance. So that would be all part of the 5 to 12 area.
I don't know how you feel, but I don't think they can ever have too many swings. The swings I
yeah.
mean, you can have too many certainly, but the first one only had like 4 swings and.
Honestly, I don't see a lot of swinging, but
Oh.
it's okay. You know what the big draw is, at least is the merry-go-round. So I'm happy to see some safer versions of the merry-go-round in these.
The
But
challenge with
I could be wrong.
swings.
Swinging, yeah.
The challenge with swings is they require one of the largest use zones, so it takes up a lot of space. And so then that will again increase our square footage, and the port and place surfacing is quite expensive, so then it just expands that. So I think feedback tonight is some swings, yes or no. I think we should all agree
yes,
on
for
swings, and
Yeah,
then
swings.
generally they have been proposing about 4, and that's working within the use zones that we have and the space provided. So
At Lakeside, you always have to stand and wait for a time to get on the swings for Arts in the Park.
Oh,
but
sure,
that might
'cause you
be
have a
just
big crowd.
because it's a
Good
crowd.
arts and
Yeah.
parks, yeah.
And then these are 2 other components in this 4th concept of 2 to 5-year-old age appropriate equipment. Again, these are all ground level access. There's transfer points that you can transfer onto this equipment as well. So again, all accessible. And again, with the port in place surfacing, wheelchair accessible. So those are general concepts, I guess overall feedback, right direction. Are there things you just really dislike or you do really like? Just looking for a little feedback so we can kind of take that next step. We do have an opportunity to modify and adjust. This is nothing final. These are just, ideas that have been brought forward. Again, kind of working with the space that we have. And so any thoughts or comments that you?
Could we get this printed out and take a little time to look at them?
Sure, that's no problem.
Would ask Betty's grandchildren.
I guess between 1 and 2 is, concept 1 and 2 is what looks good for Belts Park.
I like 2 much better than 1, but
And I liked 3.
I figured there'd be some.
I like the sway, the sway fund from number 1. Again, I've been a big advocate of the inclusive play equipment, and so I like that piece because it not only applies to children who may be in a wheelchair, but it could apply to older generations that just want to take their grandparent or parent. You could put a wheelchair in there with an adult and be able to move, similar to what you see at some of the nursing homes. I like 3 too, just because it's got some unique things that we don't have in any of our other parks when I look at some of the equipment on it, which provides some variety.
So is it fair to say from your comments, one wheelchair accessible feature that can, with movement, where someone wheelchair bound would be able to participate in that activity without
One?
having to transfer minimally?
I would like to see more than 1.
Maybe
I
not the
think we
same one,
should-
but more.
Correct.
more. That's why I want to look at it more, because there's a lot of opportunities in all of them. They're not, you know, not just one, they're.
But we don't have to, for purposes of the grant, we don't have to articulate the exact piece of equipment, or do we? Because if we said sway fun and a ground level, do we have to get that prescriptive?
We have to make sure whatever we're submitting, we don't, we have to include that number, that level of inclusivity and accessibility. So I think if we had a moderate, you know, if we have one swing and the spin, you know, the wheelchair accessible merry-go-round and another component, we can always add to it. But I think as long as whatever we're applying to, that's the minimum of what we're going to include in the playground project. So, and I think that's very feasible, so that we have some inclusive components to that.
Great. Look it over a little bit more.
So Karen, I can get you a copy of this, or anybody else that's interested after the meeting.
I mean, I think we have to look at it a little bit, but you need it before the
I
end
was
of the
gonna
month,
say, what's our
right?
deadline?
Yeah.
Well, if we can get some feedback in the next couple of days, I think, you know, we're pretty close to, we can make some final modifications, but yeah, I think, I mean, hopefully, you know, it sounds like you like 1, 2, and 3 and some version similar to that. We wouldn't have to be, you know, if, for example, we don't necessarily need the big tower in the slide, like that could change out in the final design. Just really want to focus on the accessible features for our grant application.
But we love the big slide for the final.
So would the goal be to have answers to you by this Friday? Is that? give
That would
you-
be, I think that would be a good deadline.
Because you need time to incorporate whatever that
Mhm.
feedback is into work with Bolton and Mink and incorporate it into the grant.
I think we
So-
should have time to do that if I get some feedback by Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have one more question. In
Sure.
our master plan that we got in January, we had a 13 plus
Yes,
area. I don't see that here.
good, yes, we do have that, and it still is on the master plan. That's not part of the grant application, so
grant,
we
okay.
will kind of worry about that once we get the grant submitted. The grant application is for the park pavilion with accessibility improvements to and within, so ADA compliant bathrooms and access within in that facility, and the playground components.
Perfect. Okay,
So we
thanks.
will, that is still on there. Again, just looking to get this grant application finalized and submitted.
All right.
Okay, so the action item is that you're gonna send us this document. Everybody's gonna provide their feedback by Friday of this week. And then can the other action item be to get a timeline of where we're at with this? Because, I mean, you heard it tonight. We asked again, when is this going to come to
Yes.
fruition? So,
I can provide you a timeline as well. That's no problem. All right, so we will get to,
And then, will these
Funding.
kind of recommendations and what you submit for the grant application, will that also help then with, we were getting updated pricing for our
yes,
list, so
yep,
this would be input into that as
Correct.
well? Okay.
All right, so we are moving on to staff updates. 7A Minnesota DNR grant application for belts.
All right, so this will be quick because I did talk about this in this last discussion item here. But again, our grant application for the Minnesota DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant for Belts Park is due March 31st. So we have, I do have a meeting tomorrow just on the final details for that, but City Council did approve a resolution of support, which is required on behalf of the grant. We have just about everything ready to go, so we're fine tuning the last of things, and we'll get that submitted on, it's next Thursday, March 31st. Our ask again is for up to $300,000 towards the project. Grants are, if awarded, we would be notified mid-July is the timeline on that, so. Any other questions on the grant? All right, so the parking agreement with St. Peter's Church, just a quick update that we are starting to draft an agreement with them, so we're working through the final contract terms and we'll bring that forward as soon as it's ready, but we've had some further conversation and are moving forward with a formal agreement. So more to come on that soon, but just wanted to let you know we are working on that and getting that to move forward.
So you've met with Father Bodine?
I've been in communication with him and Kathy Frazier over at the church.
Okay.
So just want to let you know we're working on that contract as well.
I just remember asking that, to be included in that, but if you're already done with it.
It was
then-
a couple quick emails, and so it was, yeah, I'm pretty much working with Kathy at this time on contract component, so I'll send that over as soon as I get that.
Be great.
All right, park dedication, ordinance and fees. Just wanted to let you know that this is still on staff radar. There's, it's at the state level right now. They're looking at it at the state level, some park dedication fees. So we're just kind of waiting right now at this point to see what comes of that. And as soon as we get some final clarification on that, we're, as city staff, going to review and we'll bring that forward. But I know that's been something you guys were, on our list of pending items, so just wanted to let you know it's very much on our radar right now. So again, that'll also be coming forward as soon as we have some more information on that.
That includes storage units. I know Tim isn't here, but he was very anxious to know if that would include the storage unit.
I believe we had resolution on the storage unit at a previous meeting where we determined that we did not have a park dedication fee collected for that.
But is it on going forward, is going to be added?
That'll be clarified as part of when we come forward again with more information. There'll be some more clarification on that.
Jamie, can I jump in quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so parkland dedication as it relates to commercial is a little bit different than residential. So there is a lot of attention being paid, as Jamie said, at the state level to this issue. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at and can probably provide more clarity on moving forward. But again, there's some things kind of in flux at this point with some of the changes that are going on. So I guess to be
Be
continued.
announced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then last update that I have for tonight, for this evening in Washington County, we did apply for a grant and did receive $10,000 to update our Parks and Trails Master Plan, so we can we have a lot of capital planning and planning to refine and develop an implementation plan that we can carry forward with us to take into consideration all these new parklands and developments coming in. So that funding will really be helpful to help us kind of take that next step as well, and talking about park amenities and a park inventory and assessment. So we'll be involved in some capacity with that work, but Bolton and Mink will be able to help us with any master plan updates to the last version of it. Won't be thrown away. It's just looking at the 2014 plan to say what's been done, what are still priorities, do a park assessment, and develop a strong implementation chapter that will be our guide as we move forward with accepting new parkland and building out additional parks. So that's exciting. We'll be able to do that work. It'll begin in April and the grant expires October 31st. So those 6 months we'll be working with Bolton and Mink on that.
And that are master plans. It's also good to get things done from the master plans.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit that has been completed. I know priorities have shifted and we've acquired some additional land and we have a significant amount of development coming in. So it'll all, it's a fine tuning and a clear implementation plan, which we don't really have right now, which aligns funding and priorities and looking at the whole park system, not only just maintaining and replacing existing parks and facilities, but planning for the future as the community continues to grow in the next coming years. So
I think I was particularly thinking of one master plan that we've been working on.
we're getting there, I promise.
Okay, just don't want to let it fall off the ledge.
It's
here.
not. I'll get you an update, and we're making some good progress on it. So,
Good.
and that's all I have for updates this evening. Unless you have any questions for me.
I have a couple. So, and this isn't for you, it's more a follow-up item if you can. So I had, we had attended the original downtown plan, and I had sent a note to Patrick on that piece, asking if that could be presented to our commission before it got too far down the road, because as I noted in there, there was some significant changes or impacts to Lakeside Memorial. Patrick's email back to me encouraged me to attend the February 22nd city council meeting, and another discussion that they were going to have. That discussion got canceled because of, I think it was a weather, I don't remember, but, and then I think it got rescheduled and I missed the reschedule, so I didn't get to attend. But I just want to be on record that I think it is critically important that that plan come before us and we have an opportunity to look at that before it's finalized. Otherwise, what value is there in us as a commission? Because there were some significant changes, as I mentioned, and I think we deserve the opportunity as a commission to meet together and have the opportunity to weigh in on that. So I'm not sure where it's at, but I just want to be on record that I would like it brought back here for the entire commission to see and have an opportunity to have some conversation on before it's finalized. If we could pass that along. And then we had the Fenway Field rehabilitation. I know we had a lot of questions and that kind of went away. I just wondering if that's coming back or if that's kind of a set to the side, if we could follow up on that.
Yes, that will be coming back. We did talk about that. I provided a brief update, but the new Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee did look that over and we talked about it. The key item for safety and need out there at Fenway Fields in particular right now is egg lime. So I got to work on getting that ordered and delivered. And we are going to, at our April quarterly meeting, review that again and determine a plan of what is needed and what that work will be. So it will come back at a future meeting, hopefully in April.
Thank you.
Along that line, again, I think we talked about different responsibilities of the commission, and did we want to change and be on different, and I haven't heard anything from that, but it was one that I had asked for, and if they had meetings and I didn't hear if I'm on it or not on it, or.
You're on it. We haven't had any additional meetings yet. So you are on it and will be included in that next email that gets sent out when we have that scheduled.
Okay, so other people who maybe wanted to change and do other things, that's all updated?
It's not fully updated yet, so I will be getting that done. I was not available last week, so I'm working on getting that piece caught up, just prioritizing the many deadlines and contracts and things that I have right now. So that one I will be, whoever I haven't talked to will be, I will reach out to them and get those committees finalized.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So next we have the Spring Fling event. Oh, no, wait, I missed the,
I think we're next.
no. Yeah, I'm right. Sorry, Spring Fling event.
So that was a commissioner update. I didn't know if one of the commissioners on the Programs and Events Committee has anything to mention on that, or I can certainly do a quick update.
Being that we haven't really got together yet.
Yeah, it's just, we are meeting with the Spring Fling events coming up in May. It's going to be Saturday, May 7th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And our group is meeting within the next few days or next week to really get those plans going. And I would anticipate it'd be very similar to last year because it went really well, so.
The chamber is having an exciting Spring Fling coming up. And again, just the confusion of the two names, but I think they're far enough apart that we can get the public's attention on both.
Yes. I think their event this year is in April and ours will be May 7th. Last year, I know that was an unexpected conflict, and we weren't aware that they were doing a spring fling when we were doing a spring fling, and they happened to be within a week of each other, so that was a challenge, but I think this year one will be over and done with before we're started, so.
They're doing the whole Easter egg hunt and everything as part of that. So that's good to know. I mean, we kind of moved on from the egg hunt, but it's good to know that people who like it still can participate in that as well.
I did have an organization reach out to me that's interested in partnering on the spring fling and supporting it as they have in years past. They'd like to volunteer and support it. So I told them that we would be meeting and we would get back in touch with them. But we do have a contact from that organization that I can share when we meet too.
Any other commissioner updates?
I have a meeting with a group tomorrow that might be interested as well. Woo! Good, we'll see. All hands on deck or make it a lot easier than the few very active and busy hands last time.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Do we have anything else for the updates?
None for me.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh.
Just on the shirts thing, I'll get over it after one more. I thought you were going to email and let people know if they wanted one and I could order it for them. So since there's only a few of us here, I could send the picture again, but it'd be nice to know if they're not going to go out and, you know, wear them in the public or go to Arts in the Park or everything. They may not, and that's fine. Whoever doesn't want one is just fine. But if they do want one, I'd like to know kind of soon so that we can get them and use them for the spring fling and Arts in the Park and everything. So if you could maybe just email
Sure.
everybody.
Yep, I'll do that right after the meeting.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.